Tim was one of those rare individuals that you don't run across very often in your lifetime.
Tim Wagner was multifaceted. He was really about working hard.
Humble, thankful, generous, incredibly talented.
Tim probably had more energy than any other person I have ever met.
Tim made people a better version of themselves. If you knew Tim, you became a better person. Today I'm a better person for knowing Tim for the last 40 years.
He was the gold standard for a Christian businessman in our community. His character in business was legendary.
His commitment to always doing the right thing.
I never heard a cross word where somebody was unsatisfied or thought something unethical was done.
Tim wasn't about financial gain. He really was about everybody doing well and sharing any rewards with the people that he worked with.
Being the president of the company, you know, he was the boss, but he never liked being called the boss.
He had a very different concept of leadership. We did not have really titles around here. When somebody was introduced new at a staff meeting, he would say, "I'm Tim Wagner in engineering," and that was just how you knew him.
The three things that separate successful from unsuccessful organizations are as follows. Leadership cares about its people, number one. Number two, people have fun. Number three, leadership has high expectations. And Tim had all three of those.
When I think of Tim, I think of true measure of a man is how he handles his power. And Tim handled his authority with grace and class.
Tim was a talented mechanic. He could take a boat motor apart. He could work on a car. He spent a lot of time with his car hobby.
He could always multitask. He would flip open his computer, he'd sit there and he'd be sending emails, reading email, calling people up, getting pricing, doing this, that, and everything.
He could redo the plumbing. He could work on the electrical system in a house.
We've been next door neighbors to Tim and Karen for 20 years. And one day he noticed that I had to walk up two pretty tall steps. And so he said, "That's kind of hard for you." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Let me fix it." So he measured it all up, built a nice little stainless steel rail for me to hang on to it.
He just was very talented with his hands and his mind.
He was a good steward of the talents that he had and the treasure that he had.
I first got to know Tim Wagner when he was a guest at the Brad Miller auction so many years ago. And he purchased a few pieces of art done by some of our littles.
He told me, he said, "Boy, I walked through there, nobody bought those, and these kids had made those paintings, and what would a kid think if they find out nobody bought them?" So he decided to just buy all of them, and you know, he hung them up.
I called him up, we talked about why he bought the art, and he was so passionate, and he was so earnest and sincere. And that's how it started, with just a few pieces of artwork.
He just jumped right in, became a board member, and just did lots of great things for Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Tim created a benchmark for board members to come, and he had been involved in the Brad Miller Gala as the committee chair, and that has grown substantially year after year after year, both in terms of attendance and in terms of revenue.
With his passion, he was a great fundraiser too. He got people here involved in Big Brothers Big Sisters. You know, he really enjoyed that part of his life.
People normally would give 100%. Tim would give you 150 and still ask if there was anything else he could do.
We eventually became fishing buddies, going bass fishing with him a number of times. He's just dependable, solid, and loyal.
And Tim Wagner meant an awful lot to me. Very rarely in my life have I looked at another man who's not part of my family and said, "Tim, I love you, I love you."
Tim was my severest critic and my dearest friend.
His family, you know, he left them a great legacy, and he loved them dearly.
The balance that he had in his life between working hard and spending time with his family. There's so much, you know, fellowship with multi-generations in his family. And he also loved going to see Bette Midler and Barbra Streisand, but that was because Karen loved it and that made her happy. And Tim loved to do whatever made Karen happy.
Our family was all that we knew, and my mother kind of instilled that in us, to take care of each other, and he just expanded it out to taking care of everybody that he ever met.
You know, if you teach a man how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime, and that's what Tim, I think, really valued in helping people.
What should you do for your fellow human being? And I think that translated also into all of his volunteer work.
The number of people that have been recipients of his benevolence, there have been a lot of them.
Really, it was a desire to really just sincerely change lives and improve lives.
Well, that's what I think turned him on so much about Big Brothers Big Sisters, is because he knew that lives were being changed by the bigs that took care of the littles.
Personal mission statement that Tim kind of helped inspire, and I look at it just about every day, is for God to smile when considering me. And by God, God smiled when considering Tim Wagner. Tim Wagner did the right thing, and he made my life better. He made just about everybody's life he touched better, and I miss the heck out of him.